So tonight, there's no formal program. We're here as presidents-elect, and thank you. Thank you for stepping up. Thank you for your leadership, and congratulations, all of you, for your role. And so tonight, there's not going to be any protocol. There's not going to be any formal presentation of flags. We're going to kind of put that to one side, and we called this session Jackets Off. All right, so if you're wearing a jacket and you can take it off and still be, presentable, then please take your jackets off, because everybody who comes up here to sit is taking their jacket off. And I don't know that this is Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon, or if you want to go even further back to The Tonight Show, but I do know this. It's live from Chattanooga. It's Mid-South Pets, right? And we're all here. So we're going to have some informal conversation about this journey that we all have in common in this room. We are all either past presidents or we are about to become president. So that common journey of being a Rotary Club president is what we're just going to have a little fun with tonight. And so to start off with, we're going to start with all of us at our tables. We're all with people at tables. And we all have had this one experience in common, right? And I bet that everyone can remember it. Do you remember when you were asked to either get into the succession line to become president, or were asked to become president of your club? And I'm going to ask you to think about that in 2 words. And to give you an example, my 2 words: bacon grease. Now, before your imagination runs away with you, the president-elect of my club invited me to breakfast when he was recommending the succession to the board, and then would bring it to our club for a vote. And he asked me to meet him at a greasy spoon that has been in business since 1926. And when you go in there, breakfast is great, but you smell like bacon grease all day long. So I smelled like bacon grease all day long the day that I knew I would be president of my Rotary Club. So at your tables, in 2 words, think about 2 words that describe your experience with becoming that president-elect, or coming into the line to be president of your club, okay? You have about 2 minutes or so just turn to someone next to you, 2 words. Have that conversation. Thank you. I know, I'm so glad. It's good to see you.
See you.
So, thank you for being here. Okay. I heard a lot of what I would call raucous laughter. So there must be some great stories out here. So I'm just going to go to a couple of tables and hear those 2 words from someone. All right, over here at this table, what were 2 words? All right, everyone's pointing at Brian. Okay, hi Brian, stand up. Where are you from?
Stanford, Kentucky.
All right, what were the 2 words?
Voluntold.
Voluntold, okay. How many people have company here, right? Well, the real question, and we don't have time to get into it, is why you said yes when you were voluntold. So there has to be some good story there as well. Let's see. Let's go back over here and hear from one other table. Let's see. All right, you look like you've had some fun. What were 2 words at this table? Everybody's pointing to the same person. Okay.
Terrified and tricked.
Terrified and tricked.
Yeah.
Well, again, the question I would ask you is, why are you here then? You have so much to look forward to. And I want to compare some notes on this. What, you're pointing to another person? Okay. I've noticed that it's the men. David, stand on up. Tell us about it. What are your 2 words?
I've taken over she is on maternity leave.
Maternity leave. Okay. I've never heard that before, but okay. All right. She has a great one, I've been told. Okay. Is it Bethany? Okay, Bethany. Stand on up. Tell us your 2 words.
Millennial female.
And we are glad you are. We are glad you are. That's terrific. This is just the start of a great weekend. And so as we go through this weekend, and as we talk about this a little bit more tonight, let's find out from some of our senior leaders, and I'll be bringing them up in smaller groups over time. We're just going to sit here and have a conversation. So to start with, I'd like to bring up our Imagine Rotary president, our current president-elect, Jennifer Jones. So come on up, Jennifer. It's so much fun, so much fun. All right, we don't have the Tonight Show couch or anything like that, but we do have these folding chairs, and they work just fine. So, Jennifer, your 2 words for how you became president of your club.
I didn't actually share that at the table, so I can tell you that the one that was most predominant at our table was, oh no. So that was big. I think I have to say, I'll do a switch on it and say, oh boy, because I was excited. And it was the best job in Rotary that I ever had. The hardest part about being a Rotary Club president was sitting down at the end of the year. I loved it. I loved it. I could have done it for years.
That's a great answer, isn't it? And I hope that when you all stand up and are president for your club for a year, when you sit down at the end of the year, you feel the same way. Because it is a wonderful journey, and it's a wonderful role. So tell us a little bit about a service project. Again, in 10 words or less. Now, not all of us can count in the same way, but about 10 words or so, a little bit more maybe. Before we get into the service project, let's talk about the environment in which you were president. And certainly when I was president, and I think of a few words that describes what the world was going through, it was post 9/11, and it was .com bust. The bubble had burst. So we're all in an interesting environment now. We're emerging from a COVID, from a global pandemic. We've got unprecedented world events, and yet something we all share is that the context in which we're president is something that we have to deal with. And so what was your context? What were some of the words that come to mind for you?
So I asked Elizabeth.
Whoops. There you go.
I asked Elizabeth earlier, do you want a word cloud or do you want an answer? And because it's different. If you're doing it in 10 words, it's like, how do you kind of position a period of time? And so we kind of settled on a bit of a word cloud / answer. And building off of what she said, the year that I was club president, on the Tuesday of 9/11, I was president of my club. And I remember that day as we watched that second plane hit the second tower, wondering whether or not we should meet at lunch. I've just timed out on my words. Should I continue?
You can continue. You're okay.
And as a Canadian, watching what was going on, I knew that we need to be together and shared experience. And so I started getting emails. We didn't have text messages or anything. So we got together that day. Not a single person missed that meeting. And we stood that day and we faced the American flag and we sang your anthem with incredible gusto. And in unison with each and every one of you, but in understanding world events, like you just said. And we are at unprecedented times, and your call as presidents right now is to be the kind of caring, compassionate, brave, intentional leaders to help our members step forward and be what they can be. That's more than 10, but I hope that resonates, because that's who we need to be.
I agree. We all take on this role, not just in our own communities, but now we are leaders for humanitarian service and for peace building in our communities and in the world. So that context is important, and you're not alone in the challenges you see in your world and in your community. I'd like to bring up now 2 more of our senior leaders. One who says, I don't have hobbies, I do community service, that's my hobby. And that is past president and current trustee chair, John Germ. Tennessee's own. And I'd also like to ask another of our senior leaders to join us up here. And that is someone, if you ask him how he is at any given point in a day, he will tell you he is. He won't tell you you are, but he will tell you he is fabulous. Fabulous. And so would you please welcome past president and current trustee, the fabulous Mark Daniel Maloney. All right, Mark, with all respect, it is, jacket's off.
Oh, yeah. We were supposed to do this together.
Feel free to use them as role models.
I think do better than
The
that.
tie, shamrock, shillelaghs.
Totally ready for St. Patty's Day. So let me start with you, John, and ask you about the context. What was going on in the world when you were a club president?
Oh, not much. The tsunami, the bombing of the World Trade Center, just a couple small items going on. That's less than 10 words.
That is less than 10 words. That is less than 10 words. And so how did you become the president in your club? What was your journey to that office?
They asked me.
All right, see, now I'm getting back, now I'm really getting back what I had asked for, 10 words or less. John, if I give you 30 words, will you give us 30 words?
Yeah, our club elects a nominating committee. They have to be past presidents. And then they meet and decide, and you cannot have been on the board for the last 3 years. You can't be a vice president while you were on the board. And so I got this call from a friend of mine, and he said, I need to meet with you. I've got a project I want to talk about, because we was in the engineering business. So that got my interest up. And all the nominating committee came to my office. And they said, the nominating committee is going to select you, has voted to select you to be president of the Rotary Club of Chattanooga. And I looked up and I thought, well, you're not supposed to say no in Rotary. So I said, okay.
Talk about, who said they were voluntold? Did your entire nominating committee show up at your office? That's being voluntold. That's being selected. That's an honor. So, Mark, could you talk a little bit about the service projects that your club did during the year that you served as president? What were some of the ones that were more impactful from your perspective?
Of course, you asked about projects when you sent this out in advance. I'm taking a much broader definition of project, because the two things I am the most proud of from when I was president was that I survived losing 27 members that year with a net gain of 3. And it would not have happened had I not changed the way we did membership development. Now, they don't do it that way anymore, but it made an impact that year. You know, the other way to tell it is, I brought in 30 new members into my club that year for a net gain of 3. And the second thing of which I was the most proud of is that we successfully hosted in Alabama in the mid-1980s a group study exchange team from Nigeria. Just think about that. I mean, you shouldn't have to think about that, but we had to think. And it came off beautifully. In fact, so beautifully that 2 days after the team left Decatur, and they were back in Birmingham, the team leader was telling the district leaders that club president in Decatur, that young guy, needs to be leading the team back to Nigeria. And I did.
That's excellent.
And that's what started me moving
That's
up
interesting.
Rotary's leadership ladder.
It's interesting how some of the commonalities we have. As I'm listening to you talk, I'm thinking about what I was most proud of was involving my club in an organization in Malawi, Africa, and we did what at that time was called a discovery grant, and we sent 2 members to Malawi to find out what our clubs could be doing, what our club could be doing there. And here it is, it's 21 years later, and I am still very much involved in Malawi. So the things that happen during your presidential year can enrich your Rotary experience for, in my case, decades to come. I want to go around the horn here and start maybe with you, John, and ask, what advice would you have for a president-elect for either making the most of this weekend, and I'm going to give you 50 words, okay, to make sure we get, we'll find 5 people to keep track of the words for you. Okay. But what advice would you have for a president-elect, either to take advantage of this weekend or through the coming year as a president?
Well, for this weekend, remember you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen. and listen to what the other people are doing in their area and how you can learn from them. When you go back home, select the best team that you can possibly do. I shared some things with a person a while ago, am I up to 50 yet? That said, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. If no one else does it, the president must. Now, if you want to do everything in your club, you can do that. I would not advise that. I would advise you to go back and to select people that want to be involved, that you know will do a good job, and then give them your fullest support.
Jennifer, what about you?
So the best piece of advice I was ever given, it was from a PDG many years ago, and this is advice that is good for life, and it's good for Rotary, and it's good for your business. It's good, just plain old good advice. Don't water the weeds. Water the flowers. So think of your clubs. Think of the people who are going to nitpick at you for something, the people who might send you an email after you do something and they spend 500 words telling you how you could have done it differently. And we all feel inclined to want to respond to those kinds of things, but the people who need the nurturing, the people who want the love and attention, the people who are going to grow and blossom under your leadership, those are the people you need to make sure that you're paying attention to. So don't get caught up in the weeds. Get caught up in what you can do differently and how you can make sure that the people who want to do good are nurtured and loved and want to make sure that your club is the best club it can be. Just don't get caught in the weeds. Yeah.
And Mark, what words of advice do you have?
I have said for years, the best thing about pets is that you have left your home, you're not mowing the grass or whatever it might be, getting the garden ready, you've left your office, I know your phone's still with you, but you've substantially left your office. This is your time to reflect on Rotary. The most important thing you can do here is reflect on Rotary, on how you're going to do Rotary in your community. And all of your clubs have different attitudes, different ways of functioning. But you, in your club, they're going to talk about this being Sue's year or Tom's year. And they're referring to the club president. You will set the tone for the club. If you're laid back and don't care, the club's going to be laid back and not care. If you're enthusiastic and motivated, the club is going to be enthusiastic and do things. And you've got a series of committees. I've seen so many in my own club. The committee chairs are appointed and no vision is given to those committee chairs. You need to give your vision to every committee chair for him or for her to know what it is you expect them to achieve during the year. And you've got to work that out in the next 6 to 8 weeks to let them know in May what you're expecting from them in the upcoming year.
Or 3 days.
Yes, or in 3 days. And I am tempted to say I needed to give you 200 words and I didn't, but but I also want to. I also feel
I'm a lawyer.
I want to say what they said, because I guess my way of saying what they said is that people, whether it's in your club or in your community, they will make important what you pay attention to. So be careful what you pay attention to, and pay attention to it intentionally. It will make a difference in your club. And I want to bring up two more of our senior leaders. We have a lot of wealth of great leadership in our 31 districts in our zones 30 and 31. And this is a little bit of a look back as well as a look forward. And the first person I'd like to introduce is someone who impressed a new member when she joined the Rotary Club and he was president. Larry Lunsford, past director and current foundation trustee, was president of my club when I joined. And I watched Larry as an incredible role model. I'd like to ask Larry to come up.
And he's also the best presidential aide there has ever been.
And I also want to look forward now, and I am so thrilled about the continuity and the caliber of leadership we have in our zones. And I'd like to ask Beth Stubbs, who is Director-nominee and will serve 2023 to 2025. Beth, come on up. There you go. There you go. All right, we are now all up here, and we are all now officially jackets off. So that's great. Larry, I'd like to start with you, and that question about advice. What advice do you have?
Good evening. It's good to be with you. Thank you. The words are stacking up, aren't they? My advice is a little bit of a spin on what Jennifer was saying about don't water the weeds. My advice is treat every member importantly. Treat every member importantly. I find that when I go back to, I remember at the end of the year that I was blessed to serve as president, I remember one of our board members saying something at the club meeting. And he said, Larry treated everyone importantly. And that was 25 years ago. And those are the types of words that first come to mind when we're posed with these kinds of questions. Because maybe some of those people that are the ones that maybe we don't want to water really just need a little more polishing. Treat every member importantly.
Thank you, Larry. Beth, what's your advice?
So I would say that not flying by the seat of your pants would be my advice. And prepare for your year. You're here at Pets. You've got a little bit more time to work on your preparation, but it's a combination of several things that people have said, but thinking about your team and what skills they have and what they can bring to your board of directors and make your club stronger. I think it's really important for you to make wise choices. And I have said a few times in training that if you have people who are stoppers, maybe you should change some people, because you want to move forward in your year. And don't let anybody put the brakes on if you can help it. So I would say prepare, think about what you want to do, what you want to accomplish, and who can help you do that. And find those people, inspire them. Someone said, you have to keep talking to them about what your expectations are. People just don't know what you have in your mind. So you have to convey, communicate, and I think be an encourager and a cheerleader. I've always tried to be a cheerleader. And so people need that. They need reassurance and kindness. And we're all in this about love, right?
Well said. Well said. We're all in it together. You know, we said we would keep this light, we would keep it short, we would keep it fast-paced, and so I'd like to go around and hear from everyone on this question. What is one leadership trait or characteristic that you developed when you were your club president? And Mark, why don't we start with you?
I was afraid you were going to do that.
But it's one trait, but hopefully you can describe it in less than 200 words. I personally love the way that Mark speaks because he's very measured in how he speaks.
Here, Larry, you go first.
What Mark was about to say was, the one word I would use is collaboration. Do you want us to expand on it? Okay, all right. I'm a rule follower, I guess. And I think that kind of bleeds or blends from what I was saying previously. But, every Rotary member represents their vocation. They have and can develop a Rotary passion. But they need to be given the opportunity to do that sometimes. Not everyone jumps to the front, right? Some people are a little more measured. And so it's important, as you treat everyone importantly, to learn what it is about their additive element that will bring more to your Rotary Club and that will engage them. This table may be engaged on one element and this table engaged on another element, and Rotary's a really big place, right? And so there's room for all of that in a Rotary Club. And sometimes I think when we get in trouble, it's because we don't allow all of that to flourish. I mean, I respect the fact that in a 75-member club with 75 passions, I mean, there's a point at which, maybe people get enough, right? But as long as they realize that the Rotary Club that they're a member of is embracing one of their passions, then they are going to remain engaged. And that takes work, and that takes leadership, and club presidents are in a great position to generate collaboration.
Thank you. Mark?
Positivity.
Would you care to elaborate?
I think that I learned of course, there are club presidents-elect who were not born when I was club president in 1985-86. There's some here in this room. But positivity, I learned that, what is it Ken Schubert says, that it's better to be honey than to be vinegar or something. I mean, that it's better to be encouraging than to be, don't be critical. I mean, you may have to help guide, but you've got to be positive all the time. You've got to be encouraging. You speak about the good things, and as much as possible, don't be, well, you should have done this or you should have done that. Be positive. And that took some changing for me. Is that enough now?
Yes. That's perfect. That's perfect. Yes, I think we all get transformed as we go through this role. And John, I'll still give you 50 words.
Delegate.
Delegate. Talk about that a little bit, if you would.
Every club sets goals that's hopefully approved by the board of directors, and those become the goals for the club. You certainly have a lot of input into setting those goals, but you can't do it all by yourself. You have to learn to delegate, and as an engineer, I was taught get the job done. Well, it's hard to get a passion and then turn loose of it. But that's what you have to do. You've got to learn to delegate. There are members in your club that are waiting to, what was that word again? Voluntold. Voluntold. They're waiting to be voluntold. You just got to find to voluntold them for the right job.
Jennifer, what's your word, or what's your trait?
So I would say that Bill's a little off of what Larry was saying, but empowerment, otherwise known as engagement in many ways. And so I remember trying to figure out how I was going to engage and empower the members of my club as I was coming into that role. And one of the ideas that I had and I put into effect was every meeting, every week, and we were a club of, when I started, we were 37. Long story short, when I ended, we were 63. So it was a good year, but I never once asked them to bring in a new member. What I did was I said we were going to have fun, and we were going to make sure that we took care of our members, and we did. And so I started every week by acknowledging one member of our club, and I would ask them to stand and tell them why we were glad that they were a member of our club. And I wrote out a simple paragraph about each one of these people, and it was a very interesting exercise in sort of human behavior and thinking, because I went back and forth with who would, you don't want to start out with all the superstars. I had to think about how do you balance it between, okay, somebody who's really good behind somebody who, it needed to be authentic, somebody who's not so strong. And as I would pick out the person who's not so strong, and I had to write a paragraph about what they contributed, I realized they actually contributed a lot more than maybe on the surface. And so as I went through that exercise, what was really cool is our attendance went way up because nobody knew who was next. And so they all showed up because as I was standing there as the president looking out on the room and asking someone to stand, I had the beauty of watching them stand and glow as my words reflected off of them into the people around them. And so the people who were looking at them like, oh yeah, Buddy's not so good, were like, oh, Buddy's actually pretty good. And as that happened, it was really cool to see how we all kind of gelled together, and just the way that the energy in our club changed and the respect for each other changed. And the retention in our club changed because we wanted to be together, and consequently we went from 37 to 63 without never once saying, bring a new member in. So as you nurture the people in your clubs, think about how you can do it with respect and how you can raise each other up and how you can bring out the best in each person. And the weakest links, don't count them out. They do good stuff. It's not always about the ones who are standing in front of you saying, pick me, pick me, pick me. Make sure that you're taking care of all of the people in your club. And that's going to be your job, is making sure that you look out for the people in between. Make sure you're looking out for everyone. And if you do that, your clubs are going to grow, they're going to thrive and survive and be beautiful clubs that just resonate into the future. So you've got an amazing, amazing opportunity ahead of you to be able to be nurturing presidents, and the comfort and care of your members has got to be your #1 priority.
Thank you. And Beth, what trait did you learn as a president?
I don't think I learned it as president, but I certainly implemented encouragement, because I felt like there were a lot of members, kind of what you were saying, Jennifer, who had fallen through the cracks. They were older gentlemen who hadn't been engaged in a while, table number 1, where the guys come in and they just are their little band of people. And so my thing was, I want to get them all engaged. And how do I do that? How do I make an effort to reach out to each one of them and know that I see them, I want them to be involved, I need their help, and it's all about all of us. It's not about me. And so it was encouraging those who I thought who had not been had just not been seen.
You know, I think as I listen, obviously I observed a great deal when I was that new member because collaboration is the word that came to my mind. I learned to be a collaborative leader. I knew and felt I was a good leader, but I wasn't always as collaborative as I needed to be. And Rotary really taught me as president to do that, and also to develop the leadership and respect the leadership of everyone in the club. And people brought in different types of leadership. The other caution I would say is, or advice I would give is, within this context, you be you. I mean, I was the second woman president of my club, and the first woman president I didn't get to meet. But her name was Elizabeth, but she was a nun, and she was a hoot. And I heard so many stories about that Elizabeth, and I decided I needed to be this Elizabeth. So you be you. Bring your best self, but be yourself. I think that's the ultimate advice that I would provide. You know, as you can sense, there's great camaraderie, there's great feeling among the people up here. And I'd ask you to look around the tables, your table, the people you will be with this weekend. Many of them will be longtime friends for you. They're also longtime support for you as you go through this journey. So really take a look at those people, get to know those people, and enjoy them this weekend, because this is where whatever great things happen in your club, it starts here. So I want to thank you for being with us tonight. All those people, the millennial woman, the voluntold, the however you got here, you have a tremendous opportunity. Let's take it, let's run with it, and let's move into this next Rotary year. And now let's move into the hospitality suite and continue these conversations. So I want to thank you all for being here tonight. I want to thank Larry and Mark and Jennifer and John and Beth for coming up here and sharing their stories. So thank you.
And thank you to Elizabeth.